All right, now let's discuss this. We're now joined by legal analyst Reitumetse Phiri. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Well, let's start with the Constitutional Court's judgment, upholding the SCA ruling that the former president returned to prison to finish his sentence. Just unpack what this ruling means, and the practicalities thereof.
Yeah, and thank you so much for the invitation. Well, in a nutshell, the outcome of the Constitutional Court confirming yesterday that the Correctional Services Department appeal against that SCA ruling has no prospects of success. It means that the SCA judgment is then enforced. It's no longer operated by the operation, no longer suspended by the operation of appeal, as had been the case coming into the ruling now. So in a nutshell, it means then that, as set out in paragraph 60 of that SCA judgment, in law, Mr. Zuma has to return to Escort Correctional Facility to serve out the remainder of his sentence, or at least the remainder of the period of his incarceration. And to the extent that, the commissioner may seek to waive the period that Mr. Zuma has served or not take it into account in the computing of his entire incarceration period, then that must be followed by an application to the commissioner by Mr. Zuma, and the commissioner must obviously apply his mind to whether he can make that decision and may be empowered to do so. So in a nutshell, that's really what the practical implication of that judgment yesterday is.
So in as far as the commissioner is concerned, I mean, you speak about what we can expect next, from the former president per se, as it relates to him. What are his prospects as the commissioner in this instance? A lot of people saying that, the prison sentence, even though he was released on medical parole, has essentially passed.
Well, the commissioner at this point in time cannot do anything except to ensure that Mr. Zuma has actually received at Escort Correctional Facility. And to the extent that there may be a consideration, right, of not necessarily ensuring that he sticks the whole time there, then he has to do that on the basis of an application. So what that application may look like from Mr. Zuma, we don't know. And he must consider it based on what he can and cannot do in law. But at this point in time, he certainly just can't come out of the blue and say that Mr. Zuma should not come to the correctional facility, because the court order is quite explicit about what should actually happen next in that respect.
In as far as the statement that we've just heard, from the Jacob Zuma Foundation, relating that the former president is in Russia due to medical reasons, how will this affect the commissioner's decision? Let's say, for instance, he does find that he has to return to prison and serve the remainder of his sentence.
Well, and I think I should just clarify, there is no discretion about Mr. Zuma returning to prison based on the SCA court order. I think what then becomes of practical significance for the commissioner and Mr. Zuma for now is how they secure his return to Escort Correctional Facility, knowing that he's in Russia seeking medical attention for now. So I think there will be some correspondence between the parties in that respect, to ensure that the court order can be given effect to in a practical way. Obviously, if Mr. Zuma is in Russia and he cannot come back to South Africa because his medical condition prevents him, then he wouldn't be in contempt of court. But certainly the moment he's able to present himself at Escort Correctional Facility, I think all the parties should ensure that he does that at the soonest moment he's able to do so.
All right, Mr. Phiri, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Really do appreciate it. Legal analyst there, Reitumetse Phiri.